The Cold War is over, but the nuclear weapons are not. Today, the fate of the world rests on a terrifying question. Are humans or computers the weaker link? You have been told that our nuclear defense systems are foolproof, redundant, and safe. That is a lie. The truth is, on at least 10 separate occasions, the only thing that prevented global thermonuclear war was a moment of pure chance, a malfunctioning circuit, or the skepticism of a single, quick-thinking soldier. Today, the unseen ledger is pulling back the classified curtain on the chilling countdown to apocalypse. We'll expose the 10 most terrifying accidents that nearly ended us. Secrets like the time a simple, broken computer chip simulated a full-scale Soviet attack. The bizarre moment a flock of geese triggered a global alert. In the name of the one Soviet soldier who, during the Cuban Missile Crisis, made a personal decision that saved the entire planet. The final, terrifying incident proves that the entire planet was just one flip of a coin away from total annihilation. Number 10. The broken computer chip of 1980. In 1980, the U.S. Strategic Air Command, SSC, command post was running a routine exercise when an alarm began blaring. The computers were indicating a full-scale Soviet missile attack was underway. The situation immediately escalated. Nuclear bomber crews sprinted to their B-52s, scramble orders were issued, and officers prepared to launch missiles. The chain of command was activated, and the clock began ticking toward a counterstrike. What caused this near apocalypse? It wasn't a Soviet launch, it was a tiny, failing component. A single, small computer chip inside a communications processor at the command center malfunctioned. This single 8-cent chip had failed in a way that injected a stream of phantom data into the system, tricking the computers into believing hundreds of Soviet missiles were heading for the U.S. The terrifying realization was that the multi-billion-dollar defense system was critically vulnerable to the cheapest component failing at the wrong moment. The error was caught just seconds before the launch countdown passed the point of no return, forcing the U.S. military to quietly replace the entire communication system. It's a chilling reminder that the end of the world could be triggered by pocket change. Number 9. The B-52 crash at Thule. In 1968, during a routine Cold War alert mission known as Operation Chrome Dome, a U.S. B-52 bomber carrying 4 hydrogen bombs suffered an in-flight fire. The crew was forced to bail out, and the plane ultimately crashed into the sea ice of Greenland's North Star Bay, near the Thule Air Base. The crash site was immediately contaminated with radioactive material, and the U.S. launched a massive, years-long cleanup operation known as Project Crested Ice. The true secret, however, was that the U.S. government, despite official assurances, was unable to locate one of the 4 hydrogen bombs. The crash was so severe, and the resulting fire so intense, that the bomb was believed to have broken apart and been swallowed by the rapidly moving ice pack. The U.S. government quietly decided to halt the search and publicly state that the bomb was lost. The chilling fact remains that a thermonuclear weapon with immense destructive power is still lying somewhere beneath the ice in the Arctic, a silent, lost remnant of the Cold War, and a constant environmental and security hazard that could trigger a political crisis if it ever surfaces. Number 8. The flurry of Geese of 1960. One of the most bizarre and easily preventable nuclear crises occurred in 1960, thanks entirely to a flock of birds. The U.S. had just activated its brand-new ballistic missile early warning system, MUSE, designed to detect Soviet launches over the North Pole. When the system began blinking warnings of an incoming Soviet missile barrage, military commanders were instantly on edge. The initial alarm was so convincing that launch crews were preparing for retaliation. What the MUSE operators were seeing was a massive, unidentified blob moving rapidly across the radar screen from the direction of the Soviet Union. As the seconds ticked down and the decision to escalate loomed, a quick-thinking technician noticed the speed and trajectory of the incoming objects were slightly inconsistent with the expected missile flight path. The final bizarre revelation? The incoming Soviet attack was nothing more than a large flock of migrating geese flying in a tight formation, their density creating a massive radar return. The terrifying fact is that the expensive, high-tech Muse system, designed to prevent surprise attack, had failed its first major test due to avian interference, proving that nature itself was an unpredictable factor in the game of nuclear war. Number 7. The War Games Scenario of 1983, Able Archer. In November 1983, the world was closer to accidental nuclear war than at almost any other time since the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the Soviet Union didn't even realize it was an accident. The U.S. and NATO launched Exercise Able Archer 83, a highly realistic command post drill simulating a conventional war in Europe escalating to nuclear conflict. The key secret was that the drill was so realistic, using encrypted communications, actual heads of state, and simulated nuclear release procedures, that the Soviet leadership genuinely believed it was a cover for a real, imminent nuclear attack. Soviet KGB agents worldwide were put on high alert, and Soviet nuclear units were prepared for immediate retaliation. The situation was dangerously misread due to escalating political tensions and the Soviet belief that the U.S. would use a large-scale exercise as a screen for a surprise attack. It was only after the exercise concluded and no real attack materialized that the Soviets slowly realized their mistake. The crisis exposed the fundamental danger of miscommunication and paranoia during the Cold War, proving that the most advanced military machines can be brought to the brink of war by simple, misinterpreted practice. Number 6. The Damascus Missile Silo Incident. In 1980, near Damascus, Arkansas, a terrifying chain of events was set off when a U.S. Air Force maintenance crew was performing a routine fuel pressure check on an LGM 30 Minuteman II missile silo, a missile armed with a nuclear warhead. During the check, a wrench accidentally dropped from the hands of an airman and fell 70 feet down the silo shaft. The wrench struck the missile, causing a massive fuel leak in the first stage rocket. The military immediately realized the catastrophic danger. The missile fuel was highly volatile. Over the next 9 hours, the entire area was evacuated as technicians desperately tried to contain the leak. The situation climaxed when a missile exploded inside the silo, blasting the 740-ton launch door off the silo and sending the nuclear warhead, with its plutonium core, flying hundreds of feet into the air. By sheer luck, the warhead's safety mechanisms held, and it landed harmlessly a short distance away. The secret of this incident is how close a simple drop tool came to causing a nuclear catastrophe on American soil, demonstrating that even inside heavily guarded silos, simple human error remains the greatest threat to global security. Number 5. The Goldsboro B-52 crash. In 1961, a U.S. B-52 Stratofortress bomber carrying 2 Mark 39 thermonuclear bombs broke up in midair over Goldsboro, North Carolina. Both bombs were immediately ejected from a plane. One bomb deployed its parachute and drifted harmlessly to the ground. The other bomb, the chilling secret, went through its entire arming sequence. Its safety pins pulled out, its arming mechanism activated, and 5 of the 6 critical safety devices failed. Only one safety switch, a small, low-voltage switch, prevented the bomb from detonating and vaporizing a massive section of the eastern United States. The bomb landed in a swamp, where it broke apart, and the U.S. military was forced to permanently abandon a large section of the bomb's secondary stage, which remains buried deep underground. The fact that 5 out of 6 safety mechanisms failed proved that the bombs were far less safe than the public was led to believe. The bomb was a literal technological accident waiting to happen, with the fate of millions resting on the reliability of a single, simple electrical switch. The near misses are becoming terrifyingly specific. The next 4 incidents weren't just computer glitches. They were moments where the entire world hung on the personal courage and skepticism of individual men, revealing the true fragility of our planet's survival. Number 4. The Korean War False Alarm, 1950. In the earliest days of the Cold War, the U.S. nuclear command structure was terrifyingly decentralized and prone to panic. In 1950, during the height of the Korean War, an isolated U.S. radar station near the Pacific coast reported an unmistakable reading: multiple unidentified aircraft approaching from the sea at high speed, matching the profile of Soviet bombers. The station immediately classified the threat as an imminent enemy attack, and the message rocketed up the chain of command. Nuclear-armed bombers were prepared for launch, and the U.S. was minutes away from retaliating against the Soviet Union. The official lie was that the incident was a minor training scare. The secret truth, later declassified, was that the radar operator, under immense stress, had misinterpreted a weather phenomenon or a reflection from a distant commercial plane. The alarm was canceled only because a skeptical commander at a higher level insisted on waiting for confirmation from a second radar system, wasting precious seconds that ultimately allowed the truth to emerge. The incident showed that the weakest link in the defense system was not the technology, but the highly stressed human being responsible for interpreting vague, incomplete data. Number 3. The NORAD computer glitch of 1979. One of the most famous false alarms occurred in 1979 at the North American Aerospace Defense Command, NORAD Center. The NORAD computers suddenly lit up with a warning that a massive Soviet submarine-launched missile attack was underway, with dozens of missiles heading directly toward the United States. Fighter jets were immediately scrambled to perform the standard verification protocols. The terrifying tension lasted for over 6 agonizing minutes as commanders tried to decide whether the threat was real. The cause of the false alarm was discovered to be a training tape being loaded into the NORAD warning system computer. A technician had accidentally loaded a magnetic tape containing a simulation of Soviet attack into the live operational system. The system interpreted the simulation data as real and immediately began the launch sequence. The sheer speed of the error, a simple, accidental tape swap, and the system's instantaneous reaction proved that the human element was the primary failure point. The only thing that prevented the U.S. president from authorizing a nuclear counterstrike was the crucial verification procedure carried out by the scrambled fighter pilots, who confirmed no missiles were in the air. Number 2. The man who saved the world, Stanislav Petrov. The man who truly saved the world wasn't a president or a general, but a Soviet lieutenant colonel named Stanislav Petrov. In September 1983, at the height of Cold War tensions, Petrov was the duty officer at the Soviet Early Warning Command Center when the alarm sounded. The system was reporting that 5 American Minuteman missiles had been launched and were heading toward the Soviet Union. The computer system was reporting the highest possible confidence in the attack. Soviet protocol required him to immediately report the attack to his superiors, which would have almost certainly triggered a full nuclear retaliation. Petrov, however, hesitated. He had a profound feeling that an American first strike would involve hundreds of missiles, not just 5. He reasoned that the alarm was too small, too clean, and must be a computer malfunction. He decided to report it as a system error, deliberately disobeying protocol. He risked his career, his freedom, and his life on a single hunch. The satellites had indeed malfunctioned, misinterpreting the sun's reflection off high-altitude clouds as missile launches. Petrov's skepticism and courage, defying the technology, remain the most personal and terrifying moment in human history, proving that the fate of the planet rested on the single, personal decision of one man. Number 1. The final incident. The Cuban Missile Crisis submarine. The final, most terrifying incident proves that the entire planet was just one flip of a coin away from total annihilation. During the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis, a Soviet nuclear-armed submarine, B-59, was trapped underwater by U.S. Navy destroyers who were attempting to force it to surface using non-lethal depth charges. The crew had been underwater for days, running low on air and completely out of contact with Moscow. The captain and political officer, believing the ship was under real attack and that war had already begun, decided to launch the submarine's single nuclear torpedo. Protocol required the captain, the political officer, and the second-in-command, Vasili Arkhipov, to all agree to launch. The captain and the political officer voted yes. Arkhipov, however, refused. He alone held the power to prevent the launch, and his single no vote forced the submarine to surface. If that single nuclear torpedo had been launched, it would have immediately triggered a full nuclear exchange between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. Arkhipov's refusal to launch the ultimate weapon, based on his personal assessment of the threat, is the ultimate secret, a final, terrifying moment where the survival of the entire human race depended on the judgment of a single, rational man deep beneath the waves. Ultra. From broken chips and flocks of geese to the courage of Stanislav Petrov and Vasili Arkhipov, these 10 moments reveal the shocking reality. Our safety is an illusion. We are living on borrowed time, saved only by human doubt. If these secrets of the nuclear age shocked you, hit the subscribe button now. Do you believe humanity will survive the next nuclear near-miss?